Hello, everyone. So before I really get into this, I'm deliberately not getting very technical today, only because everyone here is probably smarter than me. So I just don't want to prove how much smarter you are than I. So my name is Master Warrant Officer Nathaniel Semp. So I'm the Joint Task Force Pacific HF Radio OPI, or specialist, as some of them say. Um, Basically, that means I'm helping build an HF LAN across BC. I'm also the CFAR's Deputy National Manager, and I work for the Canadian Scottish Regiment as the Headquarters and Services Company Sergeant Major. And that's my call sign. And there we go. So today's talk is going to be kind of a bit of what I talked about at RAC, with a couple changes that we'll get into. And then at the end, we'll talk a bit about the vision for HF and BC and hopefully further. So today we're going to again talk about sort of civilian infrastructure and domestic emergencies, what a PACE plan is, military use of HF and BC and CFARs, which is kind of the last two are really why I'm here. I really wanted to spread the good news of CFARs and see if I can convince people to help us out. So one of the things that kind of keeps on coming up over and over again is just how more and more there's being problems with civilian infrastructure, especially on the island here. And then as kind of part of that, we've started to notice more and more that not only is there sort of problems with civilian infrastructure, but it's being affected by domestic emergencies, including fire, snow, and flooding in BC and the rest of the world. How that really affects us is the fact that most of the forms of communication in Canada end up being using the internet in some way. Um, VoIP, cell phones, sat phones, desk phones, email, Teams, Zoom, Skype. It's all using the internet, which is great, except for the internet infrastructure, especially in Canada, isn't really that stable. And given that everything uses the internet and the internet isn't as stable as we all would love it to be, especially in Canada, this ends up being a bit of a single point of failure. In the military, and it's not just the military, but it's something that we talk about a lot, is the concept of a PACE plan. And basically stands for primary alternate contingency emergency. And the guiding spirit behind that is one form of communication is basically it's you might as well consider it as being non-existent. And two forms is just barely better than one. And if you just have four forms of communication that are all independent, that's kind of when you start to reach the almost enough for any sort of emergency or operation. So my task that I've been assigned is to facilitate a long distance backup communication network in case civilian infrastructure is unavailable. And the intent here is just not to create this system, but also to make sure it gets used regularly because a radio on a shelf gets dusty and it might as well be rusty and non-serviceable. So the intent here is to not only build a system, but to train people how to use it and then make sure that we exercise it on a regular basis. I'm in fact heading down to Victoria tomorrow to kind of work through the logistics of our support for domestic operation in case something happens. So the intent here within the PACE construct is to build a contingency plan so that if the first two things we want to use don't work, we still have a long distance communication system that's not reliant on the internet in any way. So I'm in the process of purchasing 18 Barrett 4050 HF radios, which is a pretty cool commercial radio. If you Google it, you can find their sales sheet for it. It's a really capable radio. It's an SDR radio. It's 100 watt. Has built-in all the things, including 110 Bravo data. And we're installing 12 of these throughout the province, and then we're creating 6 portable stations with independent power and all that sort of stuff. I'm also getting, we haven't quite got the licensing yet, but I'm getting 4 to 6 licensed frequencies assigned to the project. They're independent of ham bands, and within kind of the Mars realm of frequencies, if you know what I'm talking about, we can talk about that in a bit. We're going to be putting dipole or actually slipping V antennas in all locations with a WIP alternate. And the intent is that everyone will have ALE 3.0, if you know what that is, which is automatic link establishment, which is a pretty cool thing in my world. And then they're coming with 110 Bravo, but we're all also planning on installing Vera and Pactron. if you're familiar with those data modes. And the intent is to kind of basically use reserve armories through the province. So you can't really see it, but the top one is Prince George, and then we have Trail, Kamloops, Kelowna, Cranbrook, uh, Vancouver, New West, North Vancouver, and Nanaimo, plus a few other locations. But the intent is basically to use existing infrastructure to set these up so that I have 12 hardened places in locations that I own for the sake of this conversation, just to try and rapidly deploy this stuff. We're going to be using, yeah, I'm kind of using as much stuff as possible to get this going. And then we have 6 portable radios that we'll be setting up. They're all in Pelican cases with independent power and stuff like that, so that I can deploy a rapidly deploy a radio throughout the province. And then using Invis, have the ability to get people on the net in a rapid fashion, which is kind of cool. And the intent here is to augment the CFAR stations that we already have throughout Canada and BC. I don't know how many of you have heard of CFARs or interacted with CFARs, but as part of all the work I'm doing, I'm the deputy national manager of the Canadian Forces Affiliate Radio System, which is a pretty cool organization. It's been around since the 70s, and we're in the process of kind of changing it. I talked a little bit about that before we started this presentation. So the CFARS, or the Canadian Forces Affiliate Radio System, is a volunteer group of CAF affiliated radio operators ready to assist the Canadian Armed Forces as required. And we say CAF affiliated, but you don't necessarily have to be former service to be a member. So basically what we're looking for is anyone who's interested in uh, or is capable of HF and is interested in helping Canada in the case of a domestic emergency. And CFARS is essentially the Canadian version of US Army Mars, which a lot of people have heard of, or the US Air Force Mars, although their mission is slightly different. We can talk about that at the end. So CFARS itself, like I mentioned earlier, was established in 1978. It was essentially a phone patch system to allow members to call home from overseas service. And it was operated by volunteer uniformed hands on both sides. And that was kind of how it started. We still have some of the original members in CFARS, which is pretty cool to hear kind of what they would cobble together. And so CFARS now, it actually consists of a mix of military stations publicly owned, operated by D&D, including Public Safety Canada, and we have a bunch of military unit club amateur radio stations and a lot of individuals throughout Canada that have privately owned ham stations and they're affiliated with CFARS. We've actually deployed some of our people with the Canadian Coast Guard for search and rescue deployments. We've actively served CFAR help Canadian Forces, Public Safety Canada, Transport Canada, and the RCMP for various things.
Hi, Ron. What are you having
Andy,
trouble
can you mute your
connecting?
mic?
Oops, sorry.
It's all good. So the CFAR started as kind of essentially a morale and welfare program, and it's been kind of morphing over time to something that's a bit more applicable to domestic operations. You'll notice the current president of RAC is there. He's currently heavily involved in CFARS, although as he kind of get he's in the process of taking a step back just because his life is moving away from being able to help us out. But he has definitely been one of our biggest advocates and operators. So CFARS today, we're the subject matters for HF for the CAF. We run weekly, monthly radio and data nets across Canada. When the CAF is running HF exercises, my CFARS affiliates actually help as they provide exercise players for these exercises. And we provide a lot of support for HF operations during domestic emergencies. We did a little bit of support during the fires. We've done floods. We've done snowstorms, all sorts of things. In domestic emergencies, one of the biggest things that we do is we actually help gather information about, especially in fires. We help gather all sorts of stuff to help make sure that the right people have the right information at the right time, the right format. So if you are potentially interested in becoming a CFARS operator or affiliate, we need you to be HF capable with data, so a minimum of 100 watts. Vera at a minimum, although we prefer 110 Bravo or Pactor. We need you to be able to follow a CFARS communication plan. We don't need you to have your CFARS data gateway up 24/7, but we need to be able to if there's a domestic emergency. We need you to be able to participate in regular CFARS radio nets. It doesn't necessarily have to be weekly, but we need to see you kind of regular. And you have to be able to do a Mars mod with your radio. Most radios, a Mars mod is quite easy. It's just moving a jumper or cutting a jumper. Almost every radio, if you go to Google, search your model and Mars mod, you'll find a video on how to do the Mars mod. They're quite easy. Um, the Mars mod thing is because unlike other emergency communication orgs, we actually have frequencies assigned to us by CAF and Industry Canada that are close to but outside the established amateur radio bands. One funny side note: CFARS actually predates Industry Canada, so we actually help them write the rules about our radios, which is kind of fun. I end up talking to Industry Canada regularly. And like I said earlier, the frequencies are pretty close to normal hand bands, and the modification is pretty cheap to apply, and it's often usually free. Usually it's cutting a jumper or pulling a jumper out, or in the case of some of the SDR radios, it's just a matter of changing one little setting. I mean, if you're potentially interested in becoming a CFARS member, one of the questions people ask is why would I join another radio club? If you're kind of interested in helping in a domestic emergency, that's some of the work we're doing. If you want to help us run domestic exercises, that is something that we do quite regularly, including this weekend. And we participate in national and multinational competitions, and you would get your own CIW call sign. So in the future, our plan is to actually run even more domestic operationally related exercises, including international scavenger hunts. We are regularly planning exercises with U.S. Army Mars and U.S. Air Force Mars, and including doing some phone patch stuff with the U.S. Air Force, which is pretty cool. And we are really working towards increasing our focus on being ready to support provincial and municipal civilians of CAF. And hopefully CFARS include some of the members here. So if you have sort of questions outside the scope of what I've talked about, we have our website, which is cfars.net. Or my favorite part of these things is sort of the question and answers. So anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, John.
Hi. I used to hold a CFARS station license for minor worship back in mid-'80s, but we never got to use it because it arrived after we fled. The crew had all gone to the various corners of the earth. So I live in Victoria, as many of us do, and it seemed like it was virtually impossible to crack the dome and to get anywhere near the organization several years ago. You're now looking for people, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm hearing that, but I just wanted to check because, yeah. Okay, so I live in an apartment. I tend to operate portable slant mobile. Is there a place for me?
That's where things get a little goofy. Right now, the current requirement is 100 watts, which is hard to do if you're.
I do 100 watts from the car. I go out and operate portable and mobile.
Then there's totally a place for you.
I'm a contester, so yeah, mostly phone.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm kind of spitting distance from. I'm spitting distance from Bay Street Armories too. If you're going to be set up down there.
I mean, I set up for my other job down there. I'll be there tomorrow night, in fact. But we don't typically do a lot of radio stuff out of Bay Street.
Oh, I see. Okay.
My Sunday nets are actually run out of Souk. My Western Canada nets are run out of Souk. Paul, whose last name escapes me right now, he runs a net every Sunday afternoon, and then we do different kinds of nets on Wednesday evenings. But typically on Sunday afternoons, it's often like a WinLink peer-to-peer type net. But yeah, if you can do 100 watts and we would love to talk.
Okay. And do you have a sample schedule or rotation of it? Because I've got
Sunday
another
afternoons.
folk I've got another life where I get out many evenings during the week for singing and dancing, basically.
Nice. Little random bit of information about me is I actually joined the Canadian Armed Forces as a saxophone player. I'm a classically trained saxophone player.
Very cool.
I'm a
Okay,
classically trained
so
saxophone player who wears a kilt and specializes in HF radios.
right. So I guess what it is, it's if you have something that's always coming on a Thursday night, then that could be awkward for me, for example. So I'm just wondering what your
Sunday
rotation looks
afternoons.
like, or if I can
Sunday
get it.
Sunday
Say again.
afternoons is the Sunday afternoons is my main net. I
Okay.
don't remember the exact time. We do run Wednesday night nets, and it's like
Hmm.
it's one of those things. We understand everyone's a volunteer, so if you can't make every single net, um, we're that's fine. But if we like to see people at least once a month.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll just look at
Um,
contest calendar and see what kind of free time I have.
yeah, so you can if you want more information or if you want to talk to me, I can put up. I kind of skipped over it, but I'll put my email address in the chat or something so you can see it. Or you can just
Great.
hello at cfrs.net also comes to me.
Thank you.
No worries.
Vince.
Hey, Nathaniel. So I'm really interested. It's sort of cool. I think as Glenn was mentioning, I will be moving up to Texada and sort of setting up a little bit of a home base there. However, my radio is only 5 watts. Now I plan on, bumping up to 100 eventually, but given that I don't meet the minimum wattage requirement, any other suggestions on how to get involved or what to do in the meantime? Or is it just like wait till I get it?
Um, currently, and I hate giving this answer is wait until you get it.
Okay.
We are talking about things, and the 100-watt radio we're following the lead of the U.S. Army Mars with that, and it's basically in the case of emergency, we want our people to be able to be louder than everyone else. It's the short answer.
Okay.
As much as everyone else shouldn't be on our frequencies, in the case of emergency, it's kind of hard to police that. So that's kind of why that exists currently. Why tuxedo?
Well, I have a tiny house and that's where I can put it legally. So, and it looks like a cool opportunity. So I'm looking forward to it. And competing with that guy up in Malcolm Island, man, he comes through strong all the time.
See, and that's why you need a 100-watt radio, so you can be
Yeah,
louder than
yeah,
that guy.
I know. I dream of that.
Any other questions? Comments?
We had actually, yes. Glenn,
Yeah.
who's the other gentleman who's working with the Rangers, who's
Well, it's
also
Kurt.
talking about?
That's
Kurt's,
me.
here. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you are. Yeah, hi. It's the sun on you. So,
Yeah, no,
is there any tie-in at all across these things?
I think there's good potential, and Nathaniel, I'll send you an email separately about that. I don't think
sure.
we need to clutter things up here with that discussion.
Well, on
Yeah.
that vein as well, I was with Neil Townsend last night at the Preoc, and
O'Neill.
I was telling him all about, hey, I'm going to this presentation tomorrow. So I just wonder, Nathan, if you can give me sort of an idea of is there a touch point between the two? Because he's talking about getting commercial radios, commercial HF radios as well. And I just wondered if there was any collaboration or coordination there with these two initiatives.
Not currently is the short answer.
Okay.
I have thoughts, but the record button is still going, so I don't feel like sharing them just yet. There's unfortunately not as much coordination in the HF space as I believe there should be. Is that Neil Townsend, formerly of the military of the army? Or
I
is it
don't
no.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
No,
There's enough.
he was formerly with the provincial government when he was working.
Okay.
And he
Okay.
organizes all the hockey radio down here as his other sort of life, I guess.
Nice.
But I was sort of going to pursue the discussion there a little bit as well, because I've been working. I have a presentation coming up, I guess, in 2 months or something about emergency communications. And I've, like Glenn, I've worked about 15 years with the City of Victoria Emergency Group, and quite a few years also with Neil. And Glenn's worked with the CRD, and probably a few I don't know, as
Hope
well
Bay,
as with
yep.
Neil, Hope Bay. So the communication is all sort of structured upwards from Victoria. It would go to Keating Crossroad if they're available. And if Keating Crossroad's down, then we'll have to talk to them in Surrey or Kamloops or something like that. And definitely using not using radiograms at all, but using WinLink messaging because of the volume of messages. Because he likes to have parallel WinLink stations, just picking them up in parallel to deal with the volume of messages.
As he should. As he should.
Yeah, yeah. So it sounds like at the same time, a lot of the North Island, as far as I can tell, doesn't have a lot of coverage, and any coverage it did have would have to be HF because the repeaters don't go there, or if they do go there, they might break during the earthquake. And so you need something that's not dependent on repeaters, and there you are to HF again. So
Yeah,
it seems
we're
to me
we're
there
planning
could
on
be.
putting we're planning on putting a WinLink gateway for CFARs in Comox,
Mhm.
probably in my backyard, to be honest. And so there will be a bunch of CFARs, WinLink gateways, uh, and then we can potentially talk about some stuff with each other. The intent is that this program that I'm working on is to augment CFARs, but is separate from CFARs. We're actually calling it the domestic response company communications system, but they're all going to be CFARS compatible systems. I'm also installing 4 CFARS base stations as well, because I'm just trying to get as many HF base stations out as possible, and just so that no matter what happens, there's a bunch of these things. But yeah, we have, I don't actually remember the exact count in Western Canada, but we actually have probably a couple dozen CFARS gateways across Western Canada as well. It's unfortunate that there's such a lack of coordination between the different parties in the emergency communication space. I know that RAC is talking about trying to create an advisory group at the national level to try and help. But yeah,
RAC doesn't seem to be plugged in at all on Vancouver Island anyway.
no.
Yeah,
In
BC
terms of
company for the Rangers has access to a number of older PCX 250s, the
Tracking.
Arctic radios.
Tracking.
And
I've played with them. They're a lot of fun.
yeah, well, we're looking at using those largely because of availability. But we've got people all over the province in remote areas, and a lot of them are in pretty steep valleys. So we're looking at the 250 with the NVIS antenna as a way to punch out through the valleys.
Yeah, we should talk offline, because I happen to know that there is a contract for Barrett radios that you can plug into, and it's quite easy to get. I'm trying to remember the name of the radio or the antenna. There's a bunch of antennas available in the system for free if you just ask the right person. When I started working on this project, we were really worried about budgeting, but it just, as I started talking to the old guard, they're like, "Oh, I've got 12 of these sloping UV antennas sitting on my shelf. Would you like some?"
Yeah.
Or
That's like the 250s. We have a container full.
Nice. Would you want to lend me one?
Well,
You're muted there, Kurt. Oh.
yeah, right now we've got one. I have one. One's in Ucluelet, one's in Gold River, and we're just trying to get them sorted out. I've got the ability now to program them, and that's
Nice.
gonna help a lot. And then we just need to find time off the side of our desk to get this running.
It's always up until July. The national manager, Captain Aaron Oberman, and myself, we were running this entire program off the side of our desk. And I managed to get like a 7-month or 9-month contract to work on some of this stuff. So we've managed to move this entire project significantly forwards in the last 9 months. But it's one of those things, like whenever whenever people really need HF, we haven't had the equipment in place to actually make HF a thing. The driving force for all of this, and the thing that kind of started this, was the atmospheric floods that happened um, in 2021, because they realized how close we were to losing internet.
Yeah,
And
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the Rangers are actually a very good resource for something like that, because we are, well positioned in very small remote communities. Our coverage is
For
really
sure.
good. Our infrastructure isn't, and that's what we need to work on. Using the PCXs, we're going to need to have a combination of PCXs running in VIS, which should cover the province fairly well. But we're going to have to also tie into some relay stations that can punch out a little further. That's all.
Well,
That's all to come.
Well, we have the 12 Barrett base stations throughout the province, and they're all going to have NVIS configured antennas. So yeah, we can talk, because we both want the same thing, which is just try and make things suck a little less when things go sideways.
So I wanted to just jump in here for a second. I saw Keith sort of make himself visual again. Did you have any thoughts or any questions or anything like that, Keith, on the discussion so far, from a not only a personal perspective but from a RAC perspective? You're muted there, Keith. Sorry.
Sorry about that. The push to talk doesn't work all the time on this thing. Nathaniel has mentioned that RAC itself is our president is strong CFARS member. Through the Aaron being at V7SCC, the Equipment Club a lot. I get the preaching from him all the time, and have been at several of their new ham introduction sessions. Family Days, I think, is normal use for them. So in that area, as far as this particular program, I'm reasonably up to date. And in terms of the comment about not being plugged in on the island, of course, Jason Tremblay is our point man on that, and he has quite naturally evolved to deal with his local areas first in Ontario, because he's better plugged in there than he is out here. But he has been, I believe, talking to a number of people.
Yep.
The whole emergency thing, in my 60 years of amateur experience, has been, as Nathaniel indicated, it goes up and down. Normally after the last emergency, everybody's excited and we forget about it before the next one. It's encouraging to see stuff being put in place. I'm not personally a believer in having lots of kits and lots of radios and no training. That's where I come from. Anyway, that's you. I hope that answered the question.
So one thing I will say is that we've internal to the CAF and the Army Reserve, we've trained. We've taken 60 people from not having used a radio to getting their advanced license and getting them on our various HF radios. So certainly, I'm a believer of, if you don't have people that can use the radio, then what's the point of having a radio? So internal to us, we've created 60 people kind of throughout the province that can get on the net, get them going.
Yeah, you're actually targeting 100, aren't you, for the?
Yep.
Yeah, and I will say that the other thing about the people that have been trained under this program, I believe that there's a very strong push on that they all have honors licenses.
Yep.
And it's kind of fun when you have 10 new hams show up and you all get them on, get their first on the air experience. I haven't had that fun for a while. It's kind of enjoyable.
And given that all these people are members of the reserves, like they're all tend to be pretty community and civically minded. So it's a lot of fun kind of helping them take them from where they are and then giving them the skill set and then watching them do phone patches, which is a lot of fun. We have we actually have them connect to Ontario and then call my cell phone. And if you want to see people that all of a sudden understand why voice procedure makes sense, have them deal with that delay and the noise of contacting Trent and then on my cell phone and trying to talk to me, even though I'm right beside them. So it's actually been like the program is. I wasn't. I mean, I'm a cynic. That's why I'm an NWO. NWOs are supposed to be cynics, and just kind of watching so many of these people get excited about radios, then asking me what radio to get, and then all of a sudden, oh, that's why voice procedure is the way it is. Has been a lot of fun. Um, but I mean, more importantly, we're not just putting radios out there. We're putting radios out there with a bunch of users that know how to use them. Now, one of the really exciting things about the Barrett radio is the ALE. I don't know if anyone here has played with automatic link establishment, but you can actually program the radio to actually test a list of propagate or published frequencies and then tell you which frequency has sort of the best propagation. And then the radio will actually let you connect to that frequency with the other radio. So, I mean, as much as we're training these people to honors, most of the people in the military have like a basic understanding of VHF and HF because it's part of our recruit course. So I actually have, I've practiced this on one of our other radios where I basically set up the whole ALE, given them like a one page how to get on the net, and most of our users can get on the net with a radio similar to the one that we're buying. We're going ahead and also giving them advanced so that if we have to set up one of the base stations, they know how to turn on or set up the antenna. But that was kind of just trying to make sure that we cover all our bases. We have these wonderful radios that allow us to take a basic user and get them on an HF net.
So Nathaniel, question for you.
Yep.
What sort of timeline do you have for getting the Barretts out there along with the NVIS antennas and that sort of thing? It's clearly a large project.
So the actual radios, I'm expecting them next month. I expect to see them kind of mid to late March.
Mm-hmm.
Barrett is actually flying out some of their brass at the end of March to run a hands-on training seminar with a half dozen of my key people, including myself. The actual installation of the radios, I expect to see the three most important stations kind of within a month or two after that. The
and
timeline for the
what
rest
are those locations?
The three main staging areas for domestic operations. So where our headquarters is in Vancouver, where our headquarters is in Victoria, and so on and so forth. So the three main ones I expect to see kind of early spring. The rest of them, I know what I want to see. I know my targets, but I'm not necessarily confident enough to say them publicly. But I do expect to have enough to get people on the air in BC certainly by early summer.
So is there some competition to get them in different locations, or is it? I sense a little bit of politics going on here somewhere in the background.
No, it's not politics. It's just I'm a cynic. I'm a master warrant officer. I'm a cynic. I mean, my personal goals here is to have, in case there is a fire this summer, to be ready for that. I mean, I'm a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to be ready for all emergencies, and
Yep.
so my personal push is to be able to tell myself that my portion of the support to domestic operation is ready. That's the thing that's motivating me to work on this project. To be honest,
Yeah.
is wanting to make sure that I've done everything I can to make sure we're ready to support. And that might sound like a little bit of a Kool-Aid, but like that's truly how I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the army because I want to support the flag and everyone on this call. And so yeah, the goal here is to make sure that we at least have enough stuff out there that we're ready to support anything that pops up this summer.
Yeah, we know there are going to be fires, so they're already smoking. So yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, it's already projected to be the driest year on record.
Hmm. Yeah, that's for
So
sure.
you would support provincial EOCs, municipal EOCs, or even federal
If
ones
they
as
if they ask
request
us,
if they request them, and
yeah.
if you can be useful. Is that a fair statement?
If they ask us,
Yeah,
if they ask
yeah,
us,
yeah,
and
yeah.
my chain of command, all the way up to the PM, says yes. We're because of the way things work in Canada, we can't we only show up if we're asked.
Right, right. But I mean, it's all to the good, right? I mean, it's a resource,
Yep,
and you're actively promoting emergency comms with some pretty good gear and training.
yep.
And not every municipality in BC is doing that. So,
Yeah,
and
I mean, I'm doing a bit of work with the local emergency communication people in the Comox Valley as well.
mhm.
I take off my uniform and then put on some civvies and go hang it with Scott and the gang. I mean, clearly, I think this stuff is important. Both Nathaniel and Master Officer Sam thinks this stuff is important. And I would do anything I can to make sure that this is a tool for for the people in charge of their tool belt.
That's great. Um, Other questions, other comments, guys, gals? I know there's a gal here, so
Janice.
What? Can you hear me, guys?
yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes, hello. What about the public, the BC public net? They have lots of people, on the net,
Mhm.
and it seems to me that there are some kind of resources there. So is there any inclinations, to include this or to have some of the main players who have good 500 watts, 1,000 watts, and they blast all over the world. Just a question.
Not at this time. Not at this time. We don't want to kind of tread on their toes. They've got their thing and their uses. Um, the Seafars and this project is more about supporting when we have to go in and support the province. This system is predominantly built for that.
Mhm.
We want to help everyone else out, but my goal is my job is to make sure that when soldiers are out spraying the fires, that we can still talk to each other.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
How's that for a non-answer?
No, I think, it's it's very interesting. I'm kind of new to the amateur radio, and
Hmm.
to my own surprise, there's lots of politics in amateur radio. And it's kind of surprising in many ways, but it's how it works. So, you have to be cautious, and be ready at the
For
same time.
sure.
Yeah.
Well, clearly there's a lot of amateurs on the BC Public Net who might be
Which
very
is
interested in becoming a CFARS member, right?
for sure.
If they're aware of it, of the opportunity.
Mhm.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it a little bit in the presentation, but I mean, CFARS historically was an amateur radio service, or not an amateur. It was it was a
Welfare, welfare.
it was a morale and welfare radio service. It was about
Yeah.
allowing soldiers to call home. But I mean, cell phones are a thing, and the internet's a thing. So CFARS has been morphing from that morale and welfare service to more of a kind of a capability service. And that road has had its bumps for sure. But we're kind of working on building these capabilities to support any operation that pops up. And it has been used for search and rescue things. It has been used in the historically in the sort of the ice storms and snowstorms in Quebec. So it's actually been a lot of fun kind of watching CFARS evolve into what it is today. I came on in about two-ish years ago, was when I was kind of voluntold to start working with CFARS, and kind of just watching people get excited about doing data nets. And so, we've actually run exercises where without any warning, said we need to get a message from Esquimalt to Ottawa, and we had 80 people within 2 hours get on the net and run these messages to Ottawa. It was actually, this stuff is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Watching people get excited about radios is fun.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we've had, what do we got here? We got 12 attendees, including you yourself there, Nathaniel, tonight. So obviously we got 12 men and women who are excited about radio and finding out about what our Canadian military is doing in a very, very positive vein with HF radio, which I think is great. Absolutely fabulous.
For sure.
I know Keith has been a real supporter of Island HF and what we're endeavoring to do here. And we're going to have, a bunch of other things happening monthly in the next little while too. So make certain you plug into some of these opportunities, because next month there's going to be a get together at UVic, which is great because I know Joseph is going to be there. I'm going to be there. And a number of others. So you're more than welcome to plug into that opportunity, SDR radio and a whole bunch of other things. And then Andy mentioned that he's going to have a Zoom gig also for Island HF in
Nice.
April. So lots of great things happening. Guys and gals interested in HF radio and all its glorious colors. Digital, voice, CW, RTTY, whatever. It's a great hobby. Super. One final asking everybody here, any more questions, any more comments?
Yeah,
Andy?
I have. I'm
Okay,
curious.
go ahead, Joseph.
Natalia, no, can you talk a little bit about the competition that you do? I'm kind of mystified me, what it is and how it is done.
Some of the competition stuff is really in the early stage because it hasn't really been a thing up till now. So we're in the early stages of planning with Mars. And I hesitate to talk about it because it's that early in the planning stage.
Okay.
But we are talking about like variations on contact kind of based competitions. We have run competitions where we've had people talk to ships that are deployed. We are spitballing, like I said, variations on a scavenger hunt where people have to go out and get information and then see how far they can send it, that sort of thing. So it's a lot of that stuff is, like I said, is at early stages, and we're still kind of working through it. So I hesitate to say too much, but it is a lot of fun, the ideas that we're throwing back and forth.
So
Will amateurs like ourselves who are out there could we end up being part of this? Could clubs end up being part of this, or will this
potentially one of the ideas that we had thought about is that that the Seafarers people aren't the scavengers, but they have to use their local ham clubs to gather the information. Was one of the ideas we threw around. So, like I said, everything's really early stages. And the U.S. Army Mars program is kind of going through a bit of a transition. Dave McGinnis left U.S. Army Mars recently, so that's kind of put a pause on things. But I'm feeling pretty optimistic that we'll come up with some cool stuff.
Cool. Andy?
Well, I was just going to say, if I sounded critical earlier, I wasn't. I'm kind of excited and wanting to see how we can take advantage of this. Really, I was going to suggest, if you haven't had the chance, that you go and visit the Provincial Regional Emergency Operations Center, which is also the province-wide one at Keating Crossroad, and meet with Neil and see the station and sort of just get to know him and talk about roles, because this would be ideal, could well be an emergency. We had, I think it's no secret that in that big Cascadia Rising exercise from a few years ago, we failed pretty badly at communications all across the province. The only good one was with the forces, with the aircraft. So I think that it adds capacity, capability. It may be configured differently than what's being done by the province, but if it can be useful in emergency, that's terrific. And so I suggest, and if you want help make meeting Neil, I'm happy to do so.
Yeah, I'll send you an email. The more everyone in this space talks with each other, the better it is for everyone, I think. So yeah, I'll reach out to him for sure.
Okay, I sense that we're about to maybe should wrap up now. Lots of good questions, lots of discussions. It's all about communications. Not only HF communications, but communicating amongst ourselves and between ourselves. So I'd like to thank you all for joining Island HF this evening because you are Island HF. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces. Sometimes see you at coffee, sometimes I see you elsewhere and that sort of thing. So in connection with radio. So Nathaniel just put up his email there on the chat. So if you want to have a look there, you'll be able to pick that up. And thanks, Nathaniel. It's been instructive, and I'm sort of excited to hear about the future. What's happening with Canadian Armed Forces and HF Radio.
As the project evolves, for sure, I'll try to kind of send out emails to the group. I am a member of the Island HF group as well, and I have been for quite some time. So yeah, this stuff is a lot of fun, and it's kind of, there is a bit of a revolution with HF going on. There's a lot of people that are starting to realize that HF is. Yeah,
it's good fun. So, and if you would cut the recording for us there, if you would, please, and then. And we're going to have the record.